Let's start. So good morning, good afternoon, good evening from wherever you are joining. Thanks for joining this webinar. I hope this is going to be an interesting and enlightening session for all you guys. So this webinar is on Salesforce data archival. So how you can integrate external platforms and save cost and compliance, right? So before we kickstart, so quickly let me introduce myself. I'm Rakesh. I head the sales division for products. Data Connectiva is one of the products. We have multiple other products for Salesforce, right? So joining me in this webinar is Vedant. He's our product consultant. Hi, Vedant. Welcome to the webinar.
Hey Rakesh, thank you for introducing me. And hey everyone, thanks for joining in. It's wonderful to have you guys today. So a brief about this webinar. I'm sure, in your Salesforce journey, you would have come across such scenarios where you have a lot of unused, legacy data lying in your Salesforce, which you cannot delete, right? But you also don't want to store them in Salesforce too. I mean, to save a lot of cost and performance. And you have looked around and you would see, you have servers, on-prem, Azure, existing databases that you want to use. And you might wonder, why not store the data there, but still use it in Salesforce, like it's in Salesforce. It will feel like it's in Salesforce, right? And that's exactly what we're going to talk about today. So now I'm giving it back to Rakesh to start with the webinar. Thank you, guys.
Thanks for the quick introduction, Vedant. It was wonderful, right? Let's kickstart now. Starting off, first thing is we want to understand what is the learning objectives of this webinar. So what are the points which we are going to cover are the importance of data archiving for Salesforce. What is the importance in terms of why somebody would like to archive the data, right? And then if they decide to archive the data, what are the different storage options which are available? So we'll touch upon that. And then we will also talk about what are the benefits of using external storage platforms. So we'll talk about that as well. And drilling deep into our topic of Data Connectiva, so the application, we will give you an overview of architecture, feature, capabilities, and also show you the demo of the application live in action, right? So once we do that, we will also talk about some of the use cases which we are working with our customers. So what are their pain points? What is their use case? And how we are able to solve their use cases using Data Connectiva application, right? So before I move on, some of the housekeeping activities. So I know you will have a lot of questions during the course of this webinar. Please do drop these questions in the Q&A section. We will try to answer them depending on the time. And if we are not able to answer, so definitely we will revert back to you or an email, right? So now let's move on. So we talked about the learning objective. Let's talk about what is the importance of archiving, right? So we are working with multiple customers, whether it is a small customer or a Fortune 500 company. So we see that these are all the standard challenges what they have. So this is what we have captured from discussing with multiple customers of ours. So one is the cost. So how they will reduce the cost. So because as you are aware, so adding Salesforce storage is a huge costly affair. So then if they're not going to add the Salesforce storage, then what is the option what they have? So in that case, can they use an archiving application and then offload some of the unused data so that they can save on the storage? So this is something which is a challenge which we have seen. The cost is a big challenge, right? So some of the companies do come, then they say that, so we have no issue with the cost. We can pay whatever it is. But the challenge what we are facing is that the system performance. So our system performance has reduced drastically, and our agents who are front-ending, they're not able to operate at the rate they used to operate. So what could be the reason? So reason could be you are keeping a huge amount of legacy data in your live system. So how can you reduce the legacy data in the live system? So some of them may be unused, so not at all used for a very long time. So can you archive? Yes, definitely. So you can archive the data by offloading unused data. So you will free up the space. By freeing up the space, definitely you will improve the system performance. And some cases, what happens is you want to, we talked about deleting of data. So is it offloading means deleting? So definitely not. So because you could approach saying that you are talking about unused data, so can I delete it off? So definitely not. So because that is one of the not good way of taking this route, right? So of deleting data, because you might want to keep this data for your reporting purpose, analytical purpose, and those things, right? So that is where you have to keep the data. And in some cases, what happens is your industry may require you to keep the data for a certain period of time. So let's say you want to keep the data for 10 years, 15 years. So that is the industry regulation. So in that case, how do you maintain the compliance? So that is where you can archive the data and still keep the data by improving the performance and reducing the cost, and making sure that you are compliant to the industry regulation, and not just deleting off the data, right? So these are all the important things what we have seen when it comes to data archiving. And let's talk about what are the main things to consider when you are choosing an archiving solution, right? So we talked about the importance, and let's talk about how you are going to go and choose an application, right? So first thing is to identify the data you want to archive, right? So which are all the objects which are consuming more space in your org, and depending on your business, what you need to keep it in the live system, what you can move it out of the system. So what is required for them to work on day in and day out. So all those things which you need to decide. So identifying objects and the data size which you want to archive is one of the key factor. And second point is, so when you're setting up an archiving system, so you need to look at the policy, right? So maybe you might have 10 years, 15 years legacy data, so which you have not used for a very, very long time. So is that what is required in the live system? So you need to understand from the business what can be moved out of live system and archived into an archived system, right? And setting up of the policies accordingly. Let's say you can keep the system data in the live system for 6 months, 1 year, 2 year, and then move everything else into an archiving system. So that could be a policy. So you need to decide that how you want to design these policies. And also looking at the roadmap of your data growth. So you need to look at how I'm going to grow in the next 1 year, 2 year, 3 year, and with that growth, what is the data volume which I will be having. So that is also one of the key factor. And third thing, when it comes to considering when you're choosing an archiving system, what are the things which you want to consider? So third thing is definitely the storage, whether it is storage within the Salesforce, or you can move this data outside of Salesforce. You need to look at what is the option which is available, what is that business is looking at it, right? So that is one of the things which you need to look at. And if you are moving to an outside storage, so what are the platforms I can use, what is the database you can use, that is something which you need to look closely upon, right? And fourth thing is, definitely your users wants to view the data, access the data, how they want to view the data, how they want to access the data. So whether they want to restore the data, how frequently they want to restore the data, so what type of data they want to access and view and restore. So all these things which you need to consider while you consider choosing an archival system, right? So let's talk about different storage options. So what are the different storage options available for any of the customer who are looking to choose an archiving solution, right? So we have two products. One is DataArchiva, the other one is DataConnectiva. So DataArchiva is a native solution to Salesforce. That means your data will be stored within the Salesforce in big objects, right? So, and data is not going out of the Salesforce. So what it means is that, so if you have a regulation where it says that so you cannot move the data outside of Salesforce, in that case the best option is to keep the data in big objects as an archive data, right? So, and the other option is using DataConnectiva. So this is for those who can move the data outside of Salesforce. So in this webinar, so we are going to go deep into DataConnectiva and what are the advantages, benefits of using DataConnectiva with external storage. So let's talk about DataConnectiva in detail. So first thing is, what are the external storage advantages, benefits of using external storage? So we believe as a company that so the data has to be close to the user, right? So as a user, that means as a owner of the data, so the data has to be with you. So that is one of the things. So with this policy, with this understanding, what we do is, so we help the customers to leverage on their own infrastructure and database. Maybe you have a team who are well versed with some of the infrastructure, whether it is Azure, AWS. So you can use your existing infrastructure and database to set up an archiving storage, right? So second one is the benefit. If you talk about is the cost benefit. Definitely, this is one of the key area where what we have seen from our experience with working with multiple customers is that at a bare minimum level, so they are going to save 90% of the Salesforce storage cost. What does it mean? So instead of buying Salesforce storage, if you go with archiving the unused data and free up the space, so you are going to save 90% of the storage cost, right? So not only that, so the total cost of ownership, if you ask me, is much lesser than buying additional storage space, right? This is a significantly lower, considering your setup cost, additional storage cost, and then the application cost, including everything, the managing over a period of time. So this will be much lesser than adding additional storage, right? So, and then third thing is what is the user experience? You can ask me. So, okay, I will archive, but how is this going to affect my user, right? So this is the beauty of this application. So where user experience is seamless. So they will be able to view the data, access the data within the Salesforce application. So that means, so there is no difference for the user. So for the front-end user who are facing the customers, they will still be able to access all the data, even though it is archived, right? So, and you can also restore the data on demand. So depending on their requirement, so you can record specific, you can also bring the data back to the Salesforce system. So, and the fourth point is that, so we talked about moving the data outside, right? So while you move the data outside of Salesforce, definitely the sales storage will be reduced. With that reduced storage, so the performance is going to increase. And for compliance, you can keep the data for many years. So however you want to keep it, right? So both the things are taken care in terms of performance and compliance, right? So let's talk about little bit in depth in terms of how the data connectiva is structured. So if you look at it in this diagram, so we have multiple platforms and multiple databases. That is what the data connectiva supports. You can use Azure, AWS, Heroku, or on-prem solutions, so with data connectiva, and in any combination. You can use any of the database. It is Oracle, Redshift, SQL, so any of the database also you can use. So that means depending on customers' requirement, we can support any platforms and any database. So that is the beauty of this product. So we don't force you to use any of these things. Depending on what expertise you have, what you want, so we can support you accordingly. So this is the beauty of data connectiva. So multiple platforms and multiple database we can support. So let's talk about the key features of data connectiva. So some of the features, key features are primarily auto scheduling. So you can set up your archiving policies, and according to what you have set up, so the application will be running at the backend, and depending on the scheduler you have given, so the data will be archived. So if you have a requirement for encrypting the data to safeguard the data while it is archived also, you can definitely do encryption and keep the data safely while it is archived as well, right? So the system is intelligent enough to understand if there are any metadata changes, and it will sync these metadata even if there are any changes with the live system. So that means before the archiving is initiated, so every time the system checks metadata changes, and then it syncs with the archive data as well, right? And relationship, so you can manage nth level of relationship, object relationship, whether it is one-to-one, one-to-many, many-to-many. So all those complex relationships are maintained. Hence, the data integrity is intact. You can also bring the data anytime. So that means at a click of a button, so you can restore the data on a record specific, right? So this is one of the beauty of this product, where if your company is 10 years, 15 years old, and then you have huge data which is in the live system, and you want to offload all the data at once. So can it be done? So how it is done? So yes, we support initial offloading of data also. And we will discuss that how we support this, and you will understand what is the beauty of this application little later when we talk about the architecture of the application, right? So then again, user experience. So you can view the data, access the data within the Salesforce ecosystem. So hence there is no change for the user at the front end, and they will be able to see all the data within the Salesforce ecosystem. So these are all primary features of data connectiva. So if you talk about additional features, like if you want to do a global search or if you want to build an analytics, so definitely you can use additional tools to build a global search and analytics. So you can build an analytics system, or you can also do a global search using additional tools, right? So at a high level, so these are the features and functionalities of DataArchiva. I'm sure I was able to give you an understanding of what is the requirement and what are the features of the application. So considering the archiving as a primary goal, right? So now let's see how it is actually working in a live demo. For this, I will invite Vedant to take you through this next session. Hi, Vedant.
Yeah, thank you, Rakesh, for that wonderful explanation. I hope you guys would have got a good idea of how the application works. So quickly starting, let me minimize this. Okay, starting before the demo, I would like to quickly introduce you guys to the architecture diagram of this application, which is this. So let me explain you how this works. So we have three pieces here. One is Salesforce, one is the server, and other is the database. So that's the three requirements that we have for this application to work seamlessly. Now, Data Connectiva is a managed package. It sits inside your Salesforce ecosystem. In your server side, we have something called Data Connectiva Gateway Component, which sits in your on-prem, Azure, Heroku, any server. And the data then is passed on or moved to your database, could be Redshift, Postgres, SQL Server. Now, a key thing here to look at is that the data is not processed in Salesforce. It is in fact pulled from Salesforce and processed in your server, actually, not inside Salesforce. So that's a key factor for this application, a key feature of this application, and that ensures that it keeps all the platform limitations, and the heavy lifting, all the heavy lifting is done on the server side, right? And that also ensures the speed is almost 10 times. Now, that being said, I also wanted to touch base on a few capabilities which are unrivaled for this application. One is scalability. You can scale up or scale down the server at your own will. The archiving is lightning fast. So the stats we have for a minimum configured server, which is one CPU and just 2 GB RAM, is 500K records within 1 minute. Now that's for a low configured server, right? Imagine if you have a faster server memory, the data process would be even faster. Now, the thing is, as I mentioned, the entire archiving engine is in server. So it has no impact on your Salesforce processes, no impact on your jobs running, anything like that. All the heavy lifting, as I mentioned, is done on the server side. So your business is unimpacted, and hence no governance limit, as you can see, because it is not disturbing the Salesforce governance limit at all. And see, when you have a lot of data in your org, the performance deteriorates. So the loading time for your agent especially would be huge, right? And that's not a good thing to have. And when you archive the data with that speed and the data is reduced, the performance improves too. And that's another major capability of this application. And finally, as we're using a database, the search experience is better because we have a lot of ways, a lot of approaches we can use to search our data as well. So these are a few capabilities. Now, that being said, I would like to get into a quick demo. And I do understand the time is less, so I'm going to make it really quick and crisp for you guys to understand. Now, the first thing that you going to see when you install the application is a dashboard, which gives a gist about the objects you've configured, the size archived, the total records, all those things, right? Now, when you start archiving, we have one more step to do before that, which is the configured object. So the first step is to configure an object under which data will be archived. Now to do that, this is where you select the object list. So it could be any standard, any custom object that you can select. This is where you select encryption. Rakesh, let's speak about the encryption feature. So you can select fields that you want to encrypt. You can select fields that you don't want to archive. You can select the child relationship. So there's three kinds: master detail, lookup, and related by data. All of that. Master detail is compulsory. As you see, these objects are configured, these are not. It says not configured. And lookup is a business choice that you want or you don't want. And once you configure an object, what are the ways of archiving? So one is the manual way, where you click on that record and then you click on that object and click on archive. It will archive everything, which is not the best way. Even I understand that. So we have an option of automating it. You can do it hourly, daily, weekly, monthly. That's a complete business choice. And along with that, we have something called filter criteria. Let's say you do not want to archive everything, which is completely understandable, right? You want to archive cases whose status were closed and were created 4 years back, 5 years back, something like that, right? Any kind of criteria can be given, any kind of SOQL query, SOSL query can be given. And based on that criteria, you can schedule it and set up a archiving mechanism, archiving process, which is totally not manual and takes care of your data storage itself. Now, you might be wondering, how do you find the archive data? Now you have archived, how do I see it? Where do I see it? The answer is under its parent record. Now let's say I archive a few cases, right? These are a few cases in archive, few of them. Now, how do I see it? So I can see it under the parent account. This is an account called TGT FinTech, under which I can see the archived cases. And here is how it looks like. You see, case owner, status, case number, everything is intact. All the details are very well put. And if you're wondering, I have emails related to this case task. What about those? There it is. There you see all the 4 emails, which is there of this task. You can in fact see that all this task and all those things, right? So that's a very high level of the application. And I have a lot more to cover, but keeping respect to the time that we have, I am going to move to some interesting use cases now of this application. So the first one that I have for you guys is all the way from Europe. There is a company which is a pharma industry leader, a Fortune 500 company, who have 7,500 products. Now, key thing which they use is a Viva CRM, which is a managed package and a fantastic CRM itself. And they are implementing it across 3 orgs. Now, we support Viva CRM, and not just Viva CRM, we also support all the other managed packages as well. But this one is specifically to Viva. Now, this use case had a complex object model. Now, they had junction objects, self lookup, and the main object were calls, sample, limit, survey, medical, event. So any of you guys, if you're using Viva, you must be definitely aware of these objects and the amount of data these objects generate. Now, archive needs, right? So what were the needs for the archiving for them? So they wanted to archive only those records whose status were unlocked. So they had the mechanism to derive how records were unlocked, and based on that, they only wanted to archive them. So they also wanted to bypass a few actions on a specific few child objects. That was a custom requirement, and they specifically used Azure and MS SQL, which is a great combination because both of them are from Microsoft, right? And the key highlights, once we did the archiving, the key highlights was that the cost saving was huge because, first of all, we're talking about 3 orgs, right? It's not you can imagine the amount of data it's generating by each org across different continents. And they, as I said, they implemented it across 3 orgs, and it took us just 12 weeks with all this complexity and all this things involved. It still took us just 12 weeks, where we were involved from requirements gathering with 20 stakeholders, and that's a number which could be even higher, to the go live, complete end-to-end cycle. And that's this use case about. The next one that we have is another Fortune 500 company who is from US, who's a medical equipment manufacturing firm. This particular use case involved a third-party app data growth. And this specifically use case had archived 80,000 million records, which were archived. So they were using an app called One EMX, which is for case management, which is a huge data growth for specifically for cases, right? Now they upgraded to an app called Service Max. Now they have 2 solutions. One is One EMX, one is Service Max. Now the challenge already was there with service 1 EMX in terms of the old cases, and it was added by another application, service max, and they had a poor system performance because you can imagine the amount of cases every day. So their users had to keep on loading. The loading time was huge. There was a compliance, they cannot delete the cases, and the storage cost, was increasing exponentially. So all of these problems were there. And then when they used our application, we archived specifically 10 years data, and we archived 30,000 cases per day. That was the amount of archival load we were able to suffice, and which was also a lot of records, right? So we can see 200 million records in total. So they archived cases from both the applications. The entire hierarchy was 35 objects, was configured under a case parent of both 1 EMX and Service Max, and they used AWS and Redshift, another fantastic combination of server and database. Now, the final one, and if the time permits, I do have a bit of time, which is an early 19th century firm, right? From the early 19th century, company from Asia Pacific, actually, who had 2 million plus community members. They had services across mobility, home, leisure, finance, and insurance industries. Now, this particular use case talks about the object when you have a lot of data and a lot of objects. Now, as you can see here, they had 13 hierarchies, 13 level of hierarchies. They had 120 plus object complex relationship, which included junction object and many-to-many relationships. And they had 80 plus archivable objects. I mean, 80 plus objects for generating data, which is, you can imagine normally it's objects like cases, emails, but this particular use case had 80 plus objects generating a lot of data. So objects such as product line items, code, opportunities, that kind of objects, right? Now, the archiving goal was to use Heroku Postgres data into Heroku Postgres database, which comes with a bundle, right? They have their own UI, as you know. They also wanted to optimize their storage and do a lot of cost saving. Now, two key things we did for this customer was they wanted to see the report, and which is very important, actually. We wanted to see the archive reports and unarchived reports together. And that was possible with the help of Heroku Connect as well. And they also wanted to use global search to search the archive data. So these two requirements were unique to this customer. And we also use Heroku Connect for the same. And they also wanted 100% data accessibility. So a few key things we use for this customer was flag-based mechanism to handle a junction object, API-based archiving, because they have a lot of apps or a lot of API archiving they required to do. And as I mentioned, we also use Heroku Connect. Now, that being said, I think we have covered most of the use cases. We showed you how the application fits in, what's the requirements in terms of business, how it works, the point-and-click solution, how it archives, and then we discussed a few use cases. I hope you guys had a very insightful time. And we are open for questions. I'm going to give it to Rakesh for the questions. And what we have is, I think, a couple of minutes, so we can take definitely a few questions itself.
Definitely. Thanks, Vedant, for the beautiful explanation of the application and the use cases. So, right. Do we have some questions? Yes, we do. Yes. So one of the question which I have is lookup to lookup also supported? So, okay. So what
Yes.
they're talking about is lookup to lookup relationship is supported. So, Vedant, can you answer
Yes.
this?
Yes, the beauty of this application is that, the way it is configured in the very beginning, that you have to select the relationship master detail lookup, and then you have to go into the lookup and also select its lookup. So not just lookup to lookup, but lookup to lookup to lookup to nth level is supported. So that's one of the key, features of this application.
Right. Thanks for answering that for us. Okay, so the other question is, can I restrict restore option for the user? Yes. Okay. Yeah. So this is one thing which
Yes.
is definitely a good question. So can we restrict? And if we can, how are we going to restrict?
So DataArchiva has an app setting where you can go to there's a restriction option where based on user or profile, you can restrict even viewing of the archive records and also restore. So based on a user and profile, you can restrict the restore option.
Yeah, I think we can take a couple of more questions. Yeah, so one of the question which we have here is, do we need any additional tool like Salesforce Connect or Heroku Connect for the archival and preview process?
So no, for the archival and preview process, there's nothing required. We have our own gateway component which takes care of everything from archiving till previewing. So no, you do not require Heroku Connect or Salesforce Connect for archival, preview, restore, nothing of that sort. The only time it could be required is when you want to run reports on the archive data and the unarchived data, and if you want to set up a global search for the archive data. But for general archiving process, there is no requirement, not just archiving, restore, previewing, anything in sort of archiving, there's no requirement of Heroku Connect or Salesforce Connect.
Okay, that's great. So thanks for answering that. And we have one more question. What is your pricing model? Okay, so a pricing model is like this. So we have an org-wide pricing. So where we look at the data, how much you want to archive, and on the basis of data, so we have a pay-as-you-grow model. So in the sense, so how much data you want to archive, we charge for that. So we don't charge for the entire thing. So we just charge for the bit of data which you want to archive, and as and when you grow more data and you want to archive more data, so accordingly it will be charged. So we'll discuss. If you want to get in touch with us, please do get in touch with us. So you can write us an email and we will be able to answer your question. We have a few more questions, I know. Yeah, Vedant, you have anything to add?
Yeah, I just wanted to add, yes, we have a fantastic pricing model that is completely fair and gives you the best ROI. So we would love to explain you in details and talk about its metrics. So please reach out to us at sales@dataconnectiva.com, which is right here.
Yeah. Thanks. I think that's a wrap for now. Thank you, Vedant, and thanks for joining this webinar. I hope this is an interesting session for you and you will be able to take a lot of good understanding of how the archiving works and what are the things which you need to take care, and some of the use case which we discussed, right? So please reach out to us.
I think one last question, Rakesh, we can take is it possible to archive custom object? Yes, Kiran, it is very much possible to archive custom object and any standard custom object itself.
Yes, so we support all type of objects, right? Yeah. Okay, yeah. That's it for now. So thanks for joining this webinar. We will look forward to hearing from you on the email. And if you have any questions, any clarification required, so please do reach out to us and we will be happy to assist you. So thank you. Thanks for joining again. Bye. Take care.
Thank you. Thank you, guys. Bye-bye. Bye.